Yes.
Yay! I'm so excited. First of all, thank you for having the time. I know you're a very busy woman, and it means the world to me that you're giving me not only time, but love, and our friendship goes beyond many things. You have been instrumental in my healing process. And before that, I wanted to tell you, thank you.
No, you're sweet. Thank you for wanting to talk to me and share this time together too, and wanting me to be a part of what you're building. Yes.
So part of my mission with On My Way podcast is just if we can help each other connect the dots in our, traveling self. So I have done either a surgeon or a building biologist and all the things that had helped me heal. And one thing that is very important, and I think that you do magnificently, is community building. But first of all, I would like to share what common things we have. Things in common we have. So I know you're from Brazil, so I would love it if you can give us a little bit of context of where you grew up, how did that look, and how you got to the United States.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm from Brazil. I'm from Belo Horizonte, born and raised. Belo Horizonte is a big city in Brazil. But I was, I come from a family of small town folks, right? So my dad is a farmer. He's still a farmer until today. My mom comes from a small town as well, but my mom is an artist. So it's a very interesting household because I went from, very simple and basics of, being working on farmland and learning about farming and all of that. For the whole side of the family, to my mom doing sculptures and arts and, like the whole thing. And she also was a fashion designer. So, I watched my mom going to work every day on high heels and really fashionable clothes and all of that. So it was a kind of two dynamic worlds, right? Very different, but that's how I grew up. And then at age 15, yes, I always have to remind myself, but at age 15, I came into the United States.
And what brought you to the United States?
At that time was really to just come and, visit my aunt. I had an aunt that lived here. Well, she still lives here. She's in Florida now. And, she was going through some things, and we came over, me and my mom, but it was one of those things that I got on the plane and I looked at my mom, and this was 15 years old. And I looked at my mom and I said, I don't think I'm coming back. And she said to me, huh?
You had that feeling.
Yes. And she looked at me and she said, I know you're not. And that was it. Like, we did not talk about it again. And, I was 15. I came with all my school stuff. I had a suitcase full of books and, ready to come back. And I stayed, and kind of the rest is history.
I love that you're so brave. Were you already fluent in English? Was that something you already had under your sleeve, or you truly had to work on that?
No. So all I knew to say was, hi, how are you? My name is Camila. How much is this? And I'm sorry, I don't speak English. That was about it. That's how far as my...
Look where you are right now. That's fascinating. You're duplicating in so many ways. I know you have a very, very strong presence in Brazil, and you build community there as well. But the United States adores you. They see you as a connector. They see you as a very bold woman who has been on different facets. Tell us about your modeling career, first of all. How did that start?
And what's strange though, because you bring up Brazil, and the reality is that actually somehow, and I don't even know how this happened, but probably because I left Brazil so early at such an early age, right? And I kind of build my life in the United States. I actually have a bigger community in the United States than in Brazil, right? So it's kind of, the world's kind of flipped in a way. So you're right. I did stay to model. I came to visit and I stayed and I started doing modeling. That was the main reason why I stayed. But I couldn't start modeling into, and everybody that is an immigrant in this country know the whole process of getting, the paperwork and all of that. It's quite an extensive process. So it was a process where I had to wait to start working as a model. So from 15 to the age 19, I did not start modeling until I was 19 years old, which it's old to start modeling, by the way, right? Back then.
I don't know about that world, so paint that a little bit for us. When
usually, you start modeling really early on, when you're like on your, some girls start at 14, 15, so I started at 19, which is, to start, that's an old age to start. But in between that, I had to earn a living and support myself over here in the United States. So I started to, I didn't speak English. So I started looking for, like, what can I do to earn money that it's honest, right? That I don't need the language. And because like I said, I really didn't speak much of English. So I started cleaning houses, okay? Because we grew up in a situation in Brazil where, we were middle class and we had people work in our households and all of that. We didn't have to worry about it. But my dad always told me and my brother, like, you can be a queen, you can be a king, but if you don't know how to take care of your palace, what happens when the staff doesn't show up? Like, what do you do? So we grew up.
Analogy. That's a very powerful analogy, like an empowering one.
Yeah, it's very much so. So we grew up, we had everything growing up and we had people that work in our household, but we grew up learning how to do those things. So because of that, I knew how to take care of a home. I knew how to handle things. So I went, I know how to do it. It's an honest job. I'm going to, look for jobs into cleaning houses. So I did that. I used to clean houses during the day. And then I would take English classes at a community college in Redondo Beach. By then I was in the Bay Area, I should say Bay Area, but Redondo Beach and Hermosa Beach area in LA. And so I would do that. I didn't have a car. I used to ride my cousin's little bike. My cousin was, I think at the time, like 10 years old. I used to ride her little bike to the school. We had the most amazing teacher. I wish I actually went back and tried to find her. And I was not able to. I did her so much, but I couldn't find her. But we had this amazing teacher because she was teaching, it was at nighttime. So she was teaching English to people that came from all over the world. The class was very international, but she would teach for people that, were like from Mexico that didn't know how to read and write in Spanish. And she was trying to teach them English, right? So like she would like jump on top of the table, we'll be in the classroom, but oh my gosh, she was older. She was, I don't even know how old she was, probably in her, early 80s back then. And she would be like, oh my gosh, she's going to hurt herself. You know what I mean? She's going to die in the classroom with us. She would come and pick us up. Like, if we say, we don't have a ride or it's rainy, we can't ride the bike or whatever. She would come and pick us up at our houses to make it to class. So I did that for a while. And then as I started to learn English better, I started to then look for other jobs. So it was always like, okay, well, I'm meant to do something else. So what is it that I need to do? So I kept on that search. So I went from cleaning houses to work as a hostess, to work at a store, to work at a restaurant.
Practicing English.
Huh?
Practicing your English, right?
Practicing my English. So my first restaurant job was in a Mexican restaurant. And the reason why, it's because their menu was all numbers.
So you would say number 21?
That's it. So I didn't have too much, it was like this small restaurant. It was like, and you go, what number? And they tell you the number and you put it back there and come back in an hour again, like just trying to survive and make a living in a way that.
What amazing is your resilience, because in those times you still didn't have FaceTime and all these tools where you would keep in communication with your family. So you're a pretty brave person to stay in like developing years in your adolescence and just, I mean, push forward. That's pretty amazing.
Yes, thank you, babe. You know, we have a joke because Matt used to make jokes. He still messes with me actually because, you know, I used to use the calling cards. That's how I kept up with my family. I don't know if, you know, if you ever use them, but, you know, if anybody that, you know, it's on a low budget is the calling cards. You pay, you know,
yes.
$5.
Little number.
You scratch it up, $5, and it gives you, you know, 1,000 minutes you can talk to and stuff. So that's how we stay connected.
Wow. So, so you're 19 by now. You have did you land a professional, or did it start slowly?
So I'm 19 now. My modeling, you know, the agency called me and they're like, okay, you know, we have everything that we need. Come to New York. By then, I had already, you know, now I'm a few years in the United States. I'm speaking English. You know, I'm working at a restaurant, an Italian restaurant, and it was a really hard one. It was like you had to, anyway, we don't need to get into it because we're going to a longer conversation on that, but it was like, it was a very hard place to work at, but it was a very family oriented, right? Mm-hmm. And it was actually one of the first times in my life that somebody really challenged me, because I remember because what happened was, Lorena, it got to a time where I was working on the Mexican restaurant and the Italian restaurant at the same time, okay? So I'll work on the Mexican restaurant during the day. I'll drive to the Italian restaurant. I'll change clothes in the car. I'll put this car seat down, I'll change clothes in the car, run to the Italian restaurant to punch in on time and start the shift to work as a hostess, right, in the Italian restaurant. But when you're a hostess, you don't make tips. So I was like, I'm gonna quit the Italian restaurant. I'm gonna go just work in the Mexican restaurant double shift so I can make more tips. And when I went to quit the owners were 2 New Yorkers, okay? And they cussed it, like, you know, they talked a very New Yorker kind of different way than I grew up and was used to. So I walked into the restaurant to quit, and one of the owners was in a meeting, and he looked up and in the middle of his meeting, he goes, can we cuss here? Are we allowed to cuss here or not? You can bleep if I cuss it.
What should I say?
Well, anyway, he looked at me and he goes, you're not you're not coming here to telling me what you came here to tell me. And I was like, you know, I had never had anybody cuss at me like that, you know, use the F word to me like that. And I was like, so I was taken back, and he goes, you sit down, I'll come talk to you. And I was like, okay. So I sat down and was waiting. He came and talked to me, and he was like, you know, why you're quitting? I explained to him. And he said to me, he goes, you know what? He goes, if Ruben can do it, then why can you not? And Ruben he's from Mexico, and he started as a busboy in the restaurant. His English was not good either. And he became one of the managers at the restaurant.
So that was very inspiring. I mean, how people invent and reinvent themselves just to.
That's it. So he said to me, he goes, you know, if he can do it, why you cannot? And it was the first time that I went, you know what, you're right. It's like I told him, but I put rules. I said, I will try. I said, I'll try my very best. As long as you have patience with me, you guys have patience, and as long as you guys do not cuss at me. Good. And he was like, deal. He's like, deal. So I was working at the restaurant, and I got a call from New York, from the modeling agency. The way that I got a modeling agency in New York is I was dating a musician at a time, okay? And he will go on tours, and, you know, we're dated for a few years. And he was like, you know, I would go visit him on tour, whatever, you know, he was, here and there. And he was going to be in New York. And he said, why don't you come with, and then you can go see modeling agencies there. So I did, and I went on all the modeling agencies that are in New York. I went to every single one of them. They all say no to me.
How come?
Different things. Sometimes they wouldn't even explain it, you know. But they all say no to me. And then I had one last agency at the end of the day. I remember it was like already getting to nighttime. And I had walking around all day with my portfolio under my arm, going to, and I was just like, and I was sad. I was crying before going into the meeting because I was like, God, you brought me here, you got me here. I don't know why, right? Like I have to, if this is not meant to be for me, then take me back to Brazil, to my culture, to my family, to all of that. And I went to the last meeting and they said yes. They took me.
So you can call this destiny, serendipity, but that was actually a blessing, right? And you never quit. I think that's also very important. You knew what you wanted. You were not married to in what shape or form that would present, but you're fearless, and I love that about you, that you're very objective oriented, and I think I have a lot to learn from that.
No, you've been kind. I think that, Lorena, when you're talking about objective, I think that one thing that really guided me through the journey, right? And the journey is really long, right? Because I start modeling, but then I have to go back to Brazil. They almost kept me in Brazil. And I had one of those moments again of like, God, if I have something important to do in the United States, take me back, figure out the solution. If not, let me be in Brazil. And all of a sudden everything works out and I'm back here. So, you have those things, but I think that the one thing that, it guided me through the journey was always to try to do the right thing, because if you work hard and you're trying to do the right thing, if something doesn't work out, then it's like, okay, it was not meant to be for me. And if whatever the end result is, I can put my head on the pillow and say, okay, I went, I did by respectful ways, by the right way. You know what I mean? Like, even like I remember when I was cleaning houses, right? So this musician that I dated for many years, right? He, he'll come pick me up when I was cleaning houses, and he had a nicer car than the owner of the house. And they're like looking at me going, you getting in that car? That's like, why are you cleaning my house? They're like, why are you cleaning my house? And I'd be like, well, that's his, it's not mine, right? Kind of thing. And then, at one point he actually wanted to get married to help with the situation for the, the papers to go faster, or, and he wanted to get married and all of that. And I was like, well, that's not, I didn't come here to just do that. You know what I mean? Like, I needed to find the right person, my right journey and all of that. So not just picking the easy route, but the right route in your heart.
Yes. And I think being very attuned to what you want. And I think you have a very strong moral compass, and you're attuned on who is Camila. So to all our friends listening, what would you recommend them, broadly speaking, spiritually? Is there, do you have a guiding principle? Is it do what you love? Or what is your mantra? What can you share with us about that?
I think that as human beings, I think that we all have a connection to everything that's around us, right? I think that our spirituality is extremely strong and present, and that a lot of times, just because of how we live our lives, the culture here, you're from Mexico, that's, I'm from Brazil. We know that if you're from South America, it's just, that's more pronounced, right? That connection with the spiritual world, the connection with Mother Nature, the connection with whatever your religion is, whatever it is that you follow. So I think that a lot of times, not every time, but a lot of times, the answers are there. The answers are there for us to see. The beauty is there for us to appreciate. The blessings are there for us to take it. And I think that it takes, moments of pause, moments of reconnection, moments of quiet, to really be able to see them, experience them, and act upon it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And actually, my oldest daughter, Lorena, her screensaver says, gut feelings are your guardian angels. And that goes back to spirituality being felt in the body. So what are the signs? Are things flowing? Am I doing the right thing? Is it something that it takes, my time when I'm in my quiet moment? So for everyone listening, this is a very complicated year. It's been one of reinvention. It's been one of patience, of tolerance. What do you suggest in a world with so much division? Have you always have like a practice towards centering? Is it through exercise, or what is your language? I've seen that through your platform, Women of Today, you've created this showing up every day, doing exercise. And I've always loved how natural, how real you are. You're not, pretending, posing, faking perfection. And I think that you're very approachable and easy to connect with. Is that a skill that you learned, or have you simply always been that way?
No, I mean, if it was a skill, then it wouldn't be natural, right? And I never really, and I don't know, Lorena, sometimes I think, maybe I should, maybe if I did a little bit more of that, then maybe things would be a bit more, evolved in different ways, but I just don't have it in my heart. I was actually just having a conversation about this with somebody last night, because, I was seeing something in the news, and it's this person with this person, and then, whatever, this relationship thing, and doing all this stuff. And I'm like, man, I just don't have it on me to pretend to act in a certain way to get this, right? Now, I think that we all as individuals have the ability to, well, let me enhance this part of myself, or let me enhance that part of myself based on certain situations, different situations that you're in. But I just don't have, it's just not on me. Even modeling, like, it's so many times I would be like, between me and this girl, me and that girl, for like really big jobs, right? And I'll see what the girls did and how they acted to get those jobs. And I'll be like, I just didn't have it on me. I'm just like, I just can't do that. Like, that's not how I was raised. And I think it goes back a lot to how I was raised and the morals that I was raised with.
Yes. And the concept of family unit, I see that we share that a lot. And I think it's also a very strong culture in Latin America, that it is a very family-based society. And I see wonders on what you've done with your kids. So like, I appreciate you're very consistent, even if your professional life, your personal life, you're the same person, you're the same Camila. And I think that speaks highly. And I would invite everyone to express themselves as their true version, because I think that's the only way where you will naturally share your gifts and be attuned to what interests are really important to you. Is that right?
It's so true. And the reality is that, we all come here with a mission, with a purpose. So we all have different purposes. We all have different things, right? And we all have different talents and different ways of going about it, and different looks and different beauties and all, different opinions and all of that. So, when you started your question with, hey, in a time that is so divided and all of that, what do you do to recharge and things as a compass? And for me, what I try to do is, number one, let's accept more of our differences, right? I feel like everybody's trying to like, oh, we have to be equal. Well, I understand in terms of having equality, in terms, well, equality on pay, equality on rights and all of that. But the reality is that as human beings and human interaction and how we look, and we all unique, right? So I think that if we take the challenge of embracing more of that beauty and the differences, I think it will also help level out how people look at each other in different cultures differently, right? So if you start looking at the beauty that culture has, the beauty that person has, what's the beauty in their work, on their creation, on how they talk, how they go about their day, what holidays they celebrate that we don't. If you start seeing the beauty of it, I think it's a great compass.
Yes, and also, it's unifying, right? Like we find our common interests, and it's unifying if we would all express in our own true way.
exactly, and I think that helping others, Lorena, is extremely important. I think that a lot of times people get caught up on what it's really just going on with them, which right now everybody has a overload of things happening to them. And it's everybody in the whole world, like everybody's getting hit one way or another with the situation that we're dealing now, right?
I agree. And also what I've observed with your, observing your history, even the professional one, I think that you have always been going back to family. When you started the food company, it was to give your kids a better opportunity on eating clean. So I would love if you can share with us, like, what are the most important values that you have and how they have shown in your trajectory.
Ooh, that's a hard one. That's a hard one because there's so many values, there's so many values.
I feel that women of today encompasses all of them. Is that right?
Yeah. So women of today really started as a love, right? So to tell you how women of today started really quickly, basically, I went for modeling, right? So then going back a little bit in the story, so I moved to New York City. I brought my family from Brazil to the United States. Then slowly they all went back to Brazil. Then I lived all over the world. Like I went all over the place. I lived in Greece. I lived in France and Italy, Africa, Israel. I lived in Israel. I was all over the place, living out of a suitcase. Then I came back and my mom was now living in the United States and she wanted to start a business. So we started a handbag company together.
Got it.
So
were you a mother already or not yet?
Huh?
Were you a mother already or not yet?
No. I did not even, I had not met Matthew yet.
Okay.
So I was dating another musician at the time. Oh, me and the musicians. I don't know what to do on that one.
There's a common thread there.
I was dating, do you know this musician his name is Maxwell? Do you know him?
No, I don't.
Oh, he's got the most amazing voice.
Yes.
It's got the most amazing voice. And that's who I thought I was going to marry. And I just found out the other day that he wrote a song for our broke-up. It's called Pretty Wings. It's a beautiful song, actually. But, I was dating a musician. My mom is back there. So we started, like I was in New York and going back and forth, and we went to a really bad breakup situation. And I went to LA to be with my mom. So we started doing the handbags, which is the Muxo handbags. So we did the handbags. I was modeling at the same time. And we did the handbags for over 10 years. We had it on QVC. I used to go on QVC and do all the styling and all that kind of stuff.
And I remember you being a visionary, because I remember some years ago when the fringes trended, you're like, I did that 10 years ago. And that's pretty amazing. You're ahead.
I know, but that I cannot take credit for. That was all my mom. My mom was really, really like ahead of the time. She taught me how to do those things, which I really didn't know how to make handbags and stuff like that. We literally started in the apartment. We used to make handbags in the car all night long, and if the police will pass by, we'll hide it in the car. And then we'll look at each other going, why are we hiding? We're not doing drugs. We just make handbags. Like, what's wrong with us? Like, we're fine. And we do it. So that's how we started. And we did it for over 10 years. And then I stepped down from that and by now I'm having my third child. And I started to say, you know what, I'm not going to work. I'm going to take a pause from this. I'm going to just be with the kids. And I started to just share. And at that time was really with like a small group of people, like things that, I like to do, which is the cooking, the kids' activities, the arts and crafts and all of that. And what I started noticing is that all the other places that I'll travel around the world, and places that I lived, and even the south of the United States, the community was a lot bigger. And when I came back to the major cities or other places in the United States, it was just very small. The community was very small, like around you. You had, your handful of friends, people you knew, and kind of, it was hard to get things done, hard to have broader conversations of broader topics. So I started Women of Today, right? In a way, it was like I was doing the baby food. Then I forget about not working. I started doing the baby food company. I was like, I gotta work. So I started doing the baby food company, Yummy Spoonfuls. And it became very intense. It was very, very intense work. So I was like, you know what? I need to do something that it's my passion and my love, which is building community, which is helping women in any way possible. So I started Women of Today with the mission that we're building a community to learn from each other. It wasn't about, I remember when I started, they're like, call Camila McConaughey. I'm like, this is not about Camilla. This is about, it's not about me going, hey, this is how I do things. You should do it like that too. It's more about, I learned this way. It worked for me. Maybe it works for you. Maybe if it doesn't work for you, share with a friend, share with a family member. What have you learned and what can you share with us so we can learn from each other? So we can do better for
you share like how to identify when the watermelon is ripe. So you're very approachable and you can, as a learner, I can relate to you, and like now I go to HEB and I'm like so excited to pick my watermelon. So I love that you're very real in what you share, because sometimes some celebrities say, oh, for a perfect face, do this, and there's no connection. It is not achievable. It's impossible to connect.
So we're going to circle back on, based on what you say, we're going to circle back with what you said in the beginning of like, what is the, did you say morals, or what word did you use? Fundamental
moral compass.
Moral compass. So you went back, let's go back to now we're going to circle back to what you asked me about the moral compass and how, what are my moral compass and how do I incorporate that into the business? You just gave a great example of what you share that you see people doing that, for me, look, I'm not going to judge what people do. People do what they're going to do. It's fine. But for me as an individual, respect lays as a really big thing for me. And part of respect, right, I don't want anybody to waste their time, waste their money, waste their emotional being, waste their, thoughts on things that are not realistic or not good for them. So with Women of Today, it's really about, hey, we're gonna, the goal is that we learn from each other to try to do better for ourselves, our family, and our community. So even little things, as you're talking about, a simple little thing of watermelon, I cannot tell you how many people tell me like, oh, now I actually do. I didn't even like watermelon. I didn't even use watermelon. Now I go and I buy it and I use it and I do this for my kids. And now my kids and I, sit there and we eat it together and we cook, cut it together, like little bitty things that really, on the long term, I always talk about, make consistent changes that you can stick to it, because the little changes that you do, if you do it consistent, they add up to big results. So doing things that are attainable, that you can continue doing consistently, I think it's very important.
I agree. And how can we participate in Women of Today? Is there, do you apply? What type of platform is it?
So guys, it is super easy, okay? All you have to do is go on the website, sign up for the newsletter, because everybody that is signed up for the newsletter do get extra things that if you're not signed up, you don't get it in terms of information. And that's really it. Be part of the community on Instagram, on our Instagram account. And we, right before the pandemic, we were doing a lot of things in person, right? So we were starting to doing events and interactions. We had a 3-day event in Round Top, before the pandemic and all of that. And it's all very interactive and hands-on. But with everything that we got going on now, we had shifts to doing things online. So throughout the whole, quarantine, we were doing, 6 days of exercise every day. And when I'm talking about exercise, it's not like, oh, let's pump, iron. It was like things that anybody could do, and meditation and stretching and this and that. I mean, we did so much. We were doing private events, which again, only people that were part of the newsletter got to be part of it. Like we would do like, an 80s session and everybody's dressed on 80s and we do workout. But at the end of the workout, we all sit down and have conversations like we're having today. And everybody was sharing.
Building, which is beautiful.
Exactly.
A country that is a melting pot. I think you're helping us have a common thread where we're, I guess it's not limited to women, or is it?
No, it's not limited to women, which, a lot of times I go, maybe we need to change the name, because it's not just for women, right? But majority of our community is women, but we do have men as well that go in there and participate too. We did something with Easy Tiger and you guys, right? We did.
Which, during the pandemic, you just literally started a worldwide trend with the sourdough bread. You were so impactful. People felt that they could actually do something small, but keep it alive. The world was just so in the dark. We didn't know what was going to happen. And you every day gave us little tasks to do, like growing a garden, feeding your starter. And I'm very appreciative. You have impacted my kids in a very big way. When you give how to make easy treats, it's not like order 20,000 stuff. It's like, guys, you have it at home. Go in your pantry. So you're very down to earth, and that is very relieving. I need to share a fun fact. I remember our friendship had recently started. This is many years ago. And you're like, Lorena, there's this antique show. It's Round Top. And I'm like, sure, anything, decor, art, I'm in. And you pick me up in like the most massive pickup truck I've ever been. I just crawled in there and I'm like, you're driving? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay. And then like, you're going to put the stuff there? Like no one will carry it. And you're like, no. And I'm like, shit. She's for real. She's a go-getter. And I think people love that. So I congratulate you for not being afraid and for living the real experience, because then it can be very isolated. So I think you're doing
it's so sweet that you share that story. That truck is huge. So for everybody listening, it's like the truck before you have to get a professional license to drive a professional truck.
I've never been one of those. And then you reverse park to load it. And I'm like, okay, this is like uncommon.
Oh my gosh, that is funny. But listen, if I don't do it, right, then how I don't know. I always feel like I need to experience, I need to know it. And I just don't even think about not doing it, because if I'm going to tell somebody, hey, check this out or check that out. Like if I have an experience, how am I going to tell you, you know what I mean? Like what I experienced with, and
it's witness that. And that's amazing.
And I think again, it just comes, like grew up in, a family of farmers, you know what I mean? Like understanding the relationship, understanding of hard work, understanding, I had to really make it on my own for many years, like I had to kind of be fearless for a while. Like you think about it, at age, I know Lori just went away to Switzerland, right? But like, and that's super hard, but like, I don't even know how I would it's impossible to think that my parents let me leave my country at that age. And then I went and lived all over the world by myself at age, 19. And I didn't speak the language, I'm moving to Greece. I don't know anybody. I don't know the language. And then by the time I leave, like I made great friends like that. I'm still friends with them today. Like now when I go back with my kids, my husband, we go and stay with them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so it's kind of I think that you just experience
like a global citizen, right? You became friends with the world.
Yeah, but I think that the more we experience, the more we have to share. It could be your experience in your backyard, right? Like I'm always curious how people go and make like their whole world this, their backyard, like the garden and all of that. Like I grew up in the city, even though I come from a farmer right? Like I didn't have, in the big city, we didn't have a yard, or, it's just an apartment building. So I'm like, once I moved to the state and I had a yard, I'm like, okay, how do you guys do that in the city? Because all I knew was farm, right? So big scale, like, right? So like, how do we do it in small scale? And how do you do that? And like, all of a sudden, I've learned from people, and I just learned I went to the farmer's market and I just start asking people, who do you know? So I think that the more you learn from others and not have the fear of asking, I have a lot of people sometimes goes, oh, it's easy for you, but you're married to Matthew and, you have access. And I said, you know what, for certain things, yes, it's easier in terms of it might be easier to get somebody on the phone. But the reality is that if I can't do the work, and if I can't pull it off, it's just a phone call. And so like, even with the food business, I'm like, Matthew doesn't know anybody in the food business. Like, that's not his world, right? I'm not trying to be an actress. So it's very different. And the whole business of the food, we went from when I partnered with my partner, Agatha, she was doing a shared kitchen, doing, every package by hand. We took that business and went nationwide with Target, 1,500, it was 13 or 1,500 stores, 30 different SKUs, all at once, like on the main, real estate in the store, with a very small team. And that was all done by like just cold calling, researching, getting into it, you know what I mean? And people be like, who, well, what do you want? What do you want to, like, people didn't know, they didn't care. It's a world that's like, it doesn't matter. Can you do the job or not do the job?
Correct. And something I admire from you, and I've witnessed it, is that you're not afraid to ask and to say, I do not know. Can you tell me how this works? Many people will never go that way, and they need to assume they know everything. And I think that you're a curious mind, open to different ways and suggestions, and that makes it even stronger, that you evaluate your standpoint and other standpoints. So that's like a very healthy balance.
Yeah, I think you know what it is, Lorena. I think that a lot of people worry about status.
Correct.
They worry about, how do I look? How do I, if I say this, if I ask that, I'm going to look like I don't know enough. I'm going to look like I'm not smart enough. I'm going to, people worry about status, and they worry that their status will come down. And I want to learn. I'm more worried about, what can I learn? Again, going back to him to say, how can we learn? How can I know more? I do have a very curious mind, which it can be annoying sometimes.
Oh, it's amazing.
But I think that, if people lose the fear of status, you actually end up getting more. Oh, sorry, I kind of lost over there. You actually end up getting more than when you are worried about how things look or should be.
Yes. So, for example, if I have an amazing recipe, do I apply it and submit it through Women of Today, or how is it that our friends that are listening? So in Mexico right now, we're podcast number 2, and yes. I would love it. Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I would really love having my Mexican heritage slowly seep into Women of Today. The Hispanic world is, a very important population in the United States.
Yes, and we have so many recipes already from Mexico and things that we talk about it. So I would love to also get some feedback for you guys to try it out and tell me, Camila, no, okay, this is good, but you should do it like this or like that, or give me the thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs down kind of thing. Look, we make it very easy. When you go on the website, you sign up for a newsletter, you can send an email to info@womenoftoday.com, and you send an email. The whole, the team sees it, I see it. And if you send a recipe, we test it out. So we test everything before we share to make sure that it works, to make sure, if it's a recipe that is not too healthy, we try to make it healthier. We take that as challenges as well.
Listening, apply. It truly comes to life. Camila is super on top of it. Her team is solid. It's beautiful. I've personally witnessed it, and it's just pretty amazing how truly connected you are to women of today. I mean, you've gone from different areas, different spectrums. I witnessed you delivering meals to ladies that were in need, and you were personally handing the food. I saw you participate with the police when they were having, or still are having, a severe crisis when the snowstorm. You were delivering face masks. So I really admire how hands-on you are. Is there any ways you could tell us, like, don't be afraid of how to start, just do it? Or are there any steps you recommend, or how to ask for help, or understand what are the true needs of the community? What would you say about that?
To start what? To start helping the community, or to start a business?
Helping the community.
So I think that, a lot of times people they freeze up because they don't know what to do.
Correct.
Right? Which we all do it. When this all started, I was like, oh my gosh, like I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta do that. And it was like, and then I couldn't do much because it was so much, and I was like, pause, just stop for a moment. And what are the things that you can actually do? They can actually make a difference. So I think that even the smallest thing can impact somebody in a big way, right? And I'll give you an example. So we have a foundation. It's called the Just Keep Living Foundation. Everybody's also very welcome to check it out. We are in schools, Title I schools, all around.
Can you repeat the name, because it cut off a little bit?
Yes. So the name of the foundation is the Just Keep Living Foundation. And it's after school programs on Title I schools. And, one thing that we do, and we do a lot of things in our program, I'll talk for hours. So if anybody wants to check it out, go on the website, check it out. But one thing that we do is we do community service. And, it is 100% attendance when we do community service days. And some of those days, those kids have to be up at 5 a.m, okay, to do these things. And Matt and I was like, what's going on, right? Like, that's like impressive. It's teenage kids to be up this early, do all those things. And they share with us that they go, listen, we have so little that we never thought that we could help anybody else. And by doing the community service, by giving their time, they realize that even doesn't matter how much you have financially, you can donate your time, you can donate your kindness, you can donate your knowledge, right? So it is so many things that can be done. So I think that really for somebody that's trying to do something, don't know where to start, just start with what's right at your footsteps, start with your community, look what it's needed, and understand that your time, a lot of, your time, it's so precious. So if you don't have financial resources, donate your time. If you don't have time, maybe donate knowledge or donate kindness. It's so many different ways.
Yes, and I have personally witnessed in different events, especially at the MJNM, the fashion show you do, when you bring girls that tell their story and testify on how they started, and then they truly graduated, they're into a music program. And it makes me smile because I'm Hispanic, and mostly it's a Hispanic audience, the ones that apply, and you truly bring the safety parameters, like it's a safer community. They bet highly on education, and they follow through education, which normally they would just pull out after maybe
Lorena, it's very true. So we're in schools that the dropout rate is really, really high. And the kids that participate in the Just Keep Living program, they all graduate, which is like, it's huge. Like, we had no idea that was going to be an effect for, we didn't start with graduation in mind. We started just, let's keep them out of trouble, out of the gangs, out of drugs. And they're graduating. We have kids that are in Harvard school, okay, that like Harvard University, they're working in the White House, they're professional chefs, and they all come back and share us the story. It's beautiful. It really is beautiful to see.
Congratulations. I mean, the job you have done is amazing. And I know your time is very valuable. I have just one last question. And how do you find balance with so many things? How do you decide how to manage your time?
It is no, look, if anybody listening have a magic bullet for that, please send an email to info@womenoftoday.com. Because honestly, it's craziness. I think that I've learned a few things. I've learned that, organization is key, right? So I'm not a very organized person. I'm still learning. It's not my strength. I'm more creative and I'm like, well, here or there, So I have learned that organization is key. So like I have it in my household, a big calendar, right? That I have it, which I have like everybody's, it's color coded. Everybody has different colors. And it's like 1 month. And then I have the next 2 months in front of me. Is the connection okay? Is the connection okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Because you're breaking up for me. So then I have the 2 months in a smaller calendar, so I could see and everybody in the household can see. So that's been a lifesaver for me. I also learned that it's okay to ask for help. Based on my story, as you learn, as we shared here, I'm very like independent and get it done and come on, It's like I used to never ask for help. And I learned that it's okay to ask for help. And you don't have to feel responsible of taking care of every single thing. And then I also learned that it's okay to give yourself a break, to understand that, it's not going to be perfect. And that the times where things don't work out the way that you want to work out, or you're not able to accomplish everything that you wanted to accomplish, that it's okay to give yourself a break as long as you're trying your best,
Yeah, that's very true. My dad once told me, like, hey, if you were dealt with a Ferrari, the Ferrari means nothing if you don't have a good driver. Good drivers know when to stop and when to refuel, when to turn right or left. And I think that's a good analogy on balance and understanding your role, your priorities, and your capacities. So asking for help is definitely a big one. And I want to thank you, because in my life, you have been tremendous help. You've been an amazing friend, an amazing sounding board. You're honest as can be. You're not afraid of saying the truth. Few people are not afraid of saying the truth, and do know that I see that. I appreciate it. And to all our listeners, please know that I'll attach all the links to the JK Living Foundation, Women of Today.com, and let's support this amazing woman, which is only, if I can put her into words, she has the biggest, bravest, most loyal heart you'll ever meet. Camila, thank you for your amazing time, your amazing conversation. And I know you're lifting many, many people's hearts, and there's a lot of wisdom behind your words. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, my love. Thank you for having me. Thank you for being you too. And you have inspired so many as well in your journey. And the journey with, writing the book, self-publishing the book, sharing being brave enough to share your story. It really has inspired a lot. I want to tell you something so Women of Today got some of the books, right? The forward box. And we were going to, we wanted to gift to this retired community, which early in the pandemic, we did a family bingo with them. I don't know if you saw that or not, but Matthew and the kids and Mom had a bingo. And I was like, I was reading the book and I was like, you know what, this could be a good one for, because they're so isolated now, right? So that could be a great way for them to spend their time, and they do book clubs and all of that. So we actually have photos, which I'm going to send it to you. We have photos of them getting, and they have the cutest thing. They have a sign, and they have a sign that says, paying forward, on the way to paying forward. So what they're doing is they got it. They're now going to start a book club with your book. Okay. And for all their locations, they have 10 different locations in the United States. They're all getting the book as well. So they're now going to come in, purchase the pay forward box, and they're not going to keep it. So what they're doing is they're going to purchase the pay forward box, and then they're doing a little card and a book marker themselves to add to that box to then pay it forward to somebody else. They're going to give it to somebody else.
Thank you. And do let them know that for every paid forward, a care kit is being donated right now through the Ronald McDonald House to all the chronic ill patients and their caregivers. And it's had a tremendous effect. People are pretty lonely right now since they only accept one caregiver in the hospitals. So every dollar, every small detail is being forwarded into the the greater well-being of our community. So thank you for all.
Yes, no, thank you for starting that, because you see one little thing that domino effects into a bunch of things, and I know a lot of other people are doing that too. So thank you for being brave, for sharing your story. I know it's not an easy thing to do. I'm not that brave to share all of my story just yet. So
speaking always behind my ears, so you are. I heard you and I trusted you, so.
No, so really, it's really amazing. Thank you for doing that. And thank you for being an amazing friend too. It's very inspiring to see you grow the way you're growing out of, the pain in blossoming into this beautiful message out in the world. And I see how you do with your kids and, just your whole family. So thank you for.
It takes a village, and I'm very grateful for having you in my village. I always thank God for your presence in my life. My kids definitely see you as a role model. So thank you, especially my Lore. She's like,
I was like crying. Like I had to move away from the Zoom the other day when she was Zooming. I'm like,
that your word has a lot of weight in our family, and I'm forever grateful. So to all our friends listening, do know that Camila and I are on our way to an ever-evolving self. We're trying to make ourselves better, to be better to our community. All your suggestions, please go on womenoftoday.com and please follow me on my way. And if you have any topics that you would love to talk about, or coming open with a topic that has not been spoken about, please reach out to both and let us be your amplifiers to make this a better world. Thank you so much. And Camila, thank you.
Obrigada.
Obrigado, gracias. Te quiero mucho.
Yo.
Bye.
Bye.